Hey babe, there's something I've been holding inside for far too long. A secret that has weighed down my heart every single day since we drifted apart. I can no longer pretend that our separation was nothing more than a series of unfortunate coincidences. Today, I want to lay bare every detail of the truth behind what happened between us, the forces that drove us apart, and the deep regrets I now carry for every moment lost. I'm writing this letter with the hope that, even if it hurts, you'll understand the complicated mix of fear, love, and confusion that led me to make choices I now wish I could undo. From the very beginning, our love felt undeniable, a fire that burned bright, promising a future filled with shared dreams and mutual respect. I remember our laughter, our deep conversations, and those quiet moments when words weren't even necessary because our hearts spoke directly to one another. It was a connection I had never known before, one that made me believe that together we could overcome any obstacle. Yet, somewhere along our journey, an external force crept into our world, distorting the clarity of our bond and gradually building a wall between us. I need to be completely honest with you. The distance that grew between us wasn't born out of a fading love or a lack of commitment on my part. Instead, it was the result of influences outside of our relationship, forces that, at the time, I was too afraid to challenge. I allowed the steady, insidious pressure of someone I trusted to sway my decisions, even when deep down I knew that nothing could ever diminish the love I have for you. I made choices that I now regret deeply, choices that created an unnecessary chasm in our connection. And for that, I am truly sorry. The person who had the most influence over my decision to separate was someone whose opinions, fears, and doubts slowly but surely overpowered my own inner voice. Referring to my mother. Her constant disapproval, her overwhelming fears about the future, and the way her opinions became the lens through which I viewed our relationship gradually eroded my confidence in what we had. I remember the countless times I tried to reassure myself that what we shared was strong enough to weather any storm. Yet, every cautionary word she spoke planted seeds of doubt, turning my certainty into uncertainty. Her voice became so dominant in my mind that I eventually lost track of my own feelings and began to believe that distancing myself was the only way to protect us from inevitable pain. I know how unfair and hurtful it must seem. I never wanted to hurt you, and the thought that I let someone else's fears come between us is something I struggle with every day. In my mind, I was convinced that I was sparing you a future filled with heartache and disappointment by choosing a path that was heavily influenced by my mother's anxieties. At that moment, I thought I was being brave, sacrificing a part of my happiness to protect what we had. In retrospect, I see that I was only surrendering to a fear that was never truly mine, but one that was imposed on me by someone who, though well meaning, did not understand our love in its fullest form. There were many nights when I lay awake, tormented by the clash between my own heart and the external pressure that clouded my judgment. I questioned myself over and over. How could someone so deeply in love suddenly seem so distant? How could I let my mother's opinions silence the very essence of who I was? The answer, painful as it is that I was overwhelmed by a storm of confusion and doubt, a storm that, at times, drowned out the quiet reassurance of our love. I believed that if I distanced myself, if I created some space, I could somehow preserve the best parts of us. Instead, I ended up deepening the rift, leaving both of us to suffer in silence. I want you to understand that every decision I made came from a place of inner turmoil and overwhelming fear, not from a lack of love for you. My heart has always belonged to you, and no external voice, no matter how loud or persistent, could ever change that. I now realize that what we had was rare and beautiful, a connection that deserved to be nurtured and celebrated rather than compromised by doubts and insecurities not of our own making. I see now how my need for space was less about needing to be alone and more about trying to escape the cacophony of fears that had taken over my mind. I thought that by stepping back, I might eventually clear the confusion and find my way back to the certainty that we were meant to be together. Instead, I let those fears guide me away from the truth of our love. It's important for me to acknowledge that my mother's influence wasn't born of malice or a desire to hurt us. She acted out of a misguided love, convinced that her caution was a form of protection. Yet in doing so, she inadvertently created a rift that neither of us deserved. I allowed her well-intentioned warnings to drown out my inner voice, a voice that knew, deep down, that we were enough. I let her fears dictate my actions, and in the process, I lost sight of the strength and resilience of our bond. It's a realization that now fills me with regret and sorrow. I wish I had been braver, had trusted my heart enough to ignore the siren call of external doubts, and had held on to us even in the face of overwhelming pressure. As I write these words, I am not asking for immediate forgiveness. I understand that forgiveness is a process, a journey that may take time to heal the wounds that have been inflicted. Instead, I am asking for your understanding. I want you to see that my actions, though misguided and influenced by forces beyond our control, were never a reflection of diminished love. They were the result of a deep-seated confusion and the fear of an uncertain future that I couldn't escape. I want you to know that I carry the weight of every regret, every misstep, and every moment when I allowed fear to overshadow the truth of our connection. I long for the day when we can both look back at this painful chapter and see it as a turning point, a moment when we learned the importance of trusting our inner voices and the power of unwavering love. In sharing this with you, I also feel compelled to reveal another part of my inner journey, a journey that extends beyond our relationship and into the realm of self-discovery and personal growth. Recently, I have been paying closer attention to the signs and messages my spirit has been sending me. I've come to realize that just as I suppressed my true feelings for you to avoid conflict, I have also been suppressing other vital parts of myself in order to meet the expectations of those around me. This pattern of self-suppression, of hiding my authentic self for the sake of preserving peace, has taken a toll on every aspect of my life. My spirit has been guiding me to acknowledge that true peace cannot be found by constantly placating the expectations of others or by avoiding conflict at all costs. In my attempt to maintain harmony, I have allowed myself to settle for mediocrity in relationships, in work, and even in the way I manage my finances. I began to notice that every time I ignored my own needs, I felt an undeniable sense of emptiness and disconnect. Despite being surrounded by friends, family, and even moments of joy, there was always a lingering feeling of isolation, as if I were living a life that wasn't entirely my own. This realization was both painful and liberating, as it forced me to confront the reality that I had been sacrificing too much of myself in the process. I started to see signs, subtle hints from the universe that urged me to reevaluate my choices. Angel numbers like 333 and 1212 began appearing in my daily life, not as coincidences, but as deliberate messages from a higher power. These numbers reminded me that I am on the brink of a significant transformation, one that will lead me to a more abundant and authentic life. They validated the intuitive nudges I had been experiencing, encouraging me to trust in my own inner guidance and to take inspired action toward a future that truly serves my highest good. This journey of self-discovery has taught me that I deserve to live a life filled with abundance, not only in the material sense, but also in terms of emotional and spiritual well-being. I've realized that by setting stronger boundaries and asserting my own truth, I can create a life that honors both my worth and the deep seated dreams I've held close to my heart. I no longer want to feel drained or diminished by the expectations of others. I want to embrace a life where every decision is made from a place of authenticity and self respect. A life where I no longer have to suppress my true self to maintain a semblance of peace. I share all of this with you not as an excuse for the past, but as a testament to the lessons I have learned. I want you to know that my journey toward healing and self realization is intertwined with the love I have for you. Every step I take to reclaim my voice and assert my true self is a step toward becoming a better partner, a stronger individual, and ultimately, someone who can love you in the way you truly deserve. I hope that by understanding the full picture, the external pressures, the inner battles, and the signs from the universe, you can begin to see that the decisions I made were born out of fear and confusion, not a lack of love or commitment. I realize now that the truth I've kept hidden for so long has not only hurt you, but has also hindered my own growth. I have learned that confronting these painful truths is the only way to begin the healing process. I need to acknowledge the role that fear played in my actions, and I need to take responsibility for the part I allowed external influences to play in our lives. While I can never change what happened, I can learn from it and ensure that I never again allow my inner voice to be drowned out by the doubts and fears of others. As I continue this journey, I remain committed to working on myself, on building a life that is rooted in authenticity, abundance, and the unwavering truth of my heart. I want to be the person who can stand firm against the storms of doubt, who can trust in the clarity of love over the noise of fear, and who can offer you a future that is free from the shadows of past mistakes. I am determined to grow, to evolve, and to learn from every misstep so that one day I might earn back the trust that has been lost between us. Abe, I know these words may reopen old wounds, and I understand if you need time to process everything. I am not asking for immediate forgiveness or for you to forget the past, but I do ask for your understanding and empathy as I lay bare my soul. I hope that in time, you can see that every regret, every moment of doubt, and every painful decision was made in the midst of a battle within, a battle where fear momentarily overshadowed the truth of our love. I want you to know that I am deeply grateful for every moment we shared, every laugh we enjoyed, and every dream we once dared to pursue together. Our love was real, and it continues to inspire me to strive for a life that is as beautiful and authentic as the connection we once had. I remain hopeful that, through honesty and vulnerability, we might both find a way to heal and perhaps even rebuild a bridge between us, one built on trust, mutual respect, and the unyielding truth that our hearts have always been intertwined. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter, for listening to my truth, and for being the remarkable person you are. I know this journey of healing is far from over, and I am prepared to work through the pain, the confusion, and the regret to emerge as someone who can love without the weight of external fears. I hope that one day we can both look back on this chapter as a difficult yet necessary step toward a brighter, more authentic future. A future where our hearts are free to speak their truth, unburdened by the voices of doubt. With all the love I have, and with the sincerest hope for understanding and healing, your name,